I've had over 2,000 sales conversations specifically for conversational voice AI. I've sold a voice AI agency, and I grew my very first voice AI agency to $30,000 a month within just 3 months. So in this video, I'm going to be showing you exactly how to overcome objections when businesses are being iffy about if they want to purchase a voice AI system from you. Now, just so we're on the same page, voice AI is an AI that takes and makes calls. Typically, that will be an AI receptionist for most businesses. So let's get right into it. Right here, I have a lot to go over in this video because there are, plenty of very basic objections that you're going to be getting when you first start sales. And I want to show you how to overcome them just like a pro. So to start off, I'm going to go over some of the objections that you're going to get before you even get to closing. So these objections that are just part of the typical sales process, and then I'm going to get to the very end of the sales process, aka closing, aka you getting that money. So to begin with, I made a little graph here that shows some of the most common objections during the initial sales process. I'm going to go over them real quick, and then we'll get into the more exciting stuff. So first, we have cost concerns. So if they're just immediately concerned about the cost because they saw it on your website or something like that, the first thing that you should be doing is doing math with them. Do not tell them, oh yeah, it's less expensive. Do not tell them, oh, well, it's like 80% less expensive. Yes, it is, but don't tell that to them. Show it to them. This is very, very important. When you're doing sales, people do not trust you. They trust themselves and they trust mathematics. That's it. So if they say, oh, well, I saw it was a little expensive, I don't know about it. What you're going to do is you're not going to say a word. You're going to pull out a notepad, or you're going to go on a calculator on your computer, and you're going to ask them. You're going to ask them, not say, you're going to ask them, how much are you paying for your receptionist right now? Okay. And how many missed calls are you getting every month? Okay. And how much would each of those missed calls be worth to you if you answered them? Okay. And what's your closing percentage? Okay. You're going to do all of the math. You're going to figure out how much money they're losing and how much money they're spending. You're going to figure out what the opposite of that will be, and that is how much money they will make by switching to AI. So if they're losing $10,000 a month because of deals that are calling in the middle of the night and no one's answering, and they're spending $4,000 a month on a receptionist, then their opportunity cost for not using AI is $14,000 a month. That's significant for a small business. It's very significant. Okay, next, too robotic. A lot of people will say this before they even hear it. If they say it after they've heard the demo, that's a legit objection. That's a legit objection. If they think it sounds like a robot and they know their customers will, that's a real problem. Maybe it's not a good fit. However, a lot of people say this before they even hear it. So the very first thing you need to do, again, is don't tell them it's not an AI sounding AI. Don't tell them it's not a robot sounding AI. Don't do that. Show them. I'm going to keep saying this. Show them. Take out a demo and have them call it or call them with it. Now, Nova Echo's AI sounds extremely realistic, and very few people will say, oh, that sounds like a robot. Most businesses will just be like, okay, wow, that sounds great. Now, if you use some other platforms like Vappy or something, then you'll get a lot more of these, oh, it's a robot, because it does kind of sound like a robot when you use Vappy. Next is too complicated. A lot of people say, oh, this sounds really, really complicated. It's an AI system. I don't know what I'm doing. All you need to do is reassure them that they are not going to be spending a lot of time on this. It's plug and play. The setup is, it takes days. It doesn't take months. It takes weeks. It doesn't take years, however you want to put it, however the truth is. And you want to make it really clear that you're doing everything for them. So whenever someone gives me this objection, I just break down the process. I say, oh, well, it's not complicated. I just need 2 hours of your time to answer some basic questions. We do everything else. So yeah, it is complicated for us, to be honest with you, but not for you at all. So you just want to make that clear. Next is security worries. Nova Echo is fully HIPAA compliant. You can just say that. Typically when they say security worries, if it's a healthcare company, that's what they're talking about. If there's other things, you can shoot us an email or shoot me an email. My email's in the description. I can get back to you on if we are compliant in whatever regard they need, but I'm sure we will be. Next is can't handle complex calls. So a lot of people believe that AI is just stupid. They don't think it can handle complex calls. Now, there is a certain amount of truth to this, because very complex calls, the AI cannot handle. However, it can handle medium complexity calls. It's pretty good at it, actually. Much better than a regular IVR robot system. And so if somebody asks it any kind of fairly basic or, mid-level complex question, it will answer it. But what you want to do, and what we do, is we reassure people that, well, we're not replacing your humans. Like, your humans are still going to be there. They're going to still take the 20% of calls that are very complex. Nova Echo AI can actually transfer calls to that human. Nova Echo, that software, that voice AI software has that ability. And so what we say is, yeah, 80% of the calls will be handled by AI, but the most complex calls, the 1/5 of calls that are really, really hard, we'll just transfer to a human. Next is brand reputation risk. A lot of people are scared about the AI saying something incorrect. Again, I don't want to keep saying the name, but it's true. There's a reason I like the software so much. Nova Echo has rules. And so you can add rules to the AI that are guardrails to make sure it will always do something and never do something ever. And with these rules, you can make sure that the reputation risk is much lower. But anyone can call in 24/7 and get help whenever they need. That enhances your brand image a lot, arguably more than, the 1 in 100 AI saying something that's a little bit off. Not crazy off, just a little bit, right? Next is integration issues. We use Salesforce. I don't want to use your system. We're already using Salesforce. Our whole company's trained on it. That's fine. That's fine. This is not even really an objection. It's just kind of a question. It's like, hey, we need to be able to integrate with this. Cool. Again, voice AI platforms integrate with Salesforce and HubSpot and thousands of other CRM systems. And so it's not something that you're going to have to worry about. Job loss fears. They want to make sure that their staff doesn't have to get fired because they don't want to fire a bunch of humans. And this comes back to the call complexity issue. We can combine these. Yes, we know. We're not asking you to fire anybody. We don't want you to fire anybody. We want AI to handle 80% of the most common questions. We want humans to then handle the other 20% really well. What's going to happen now is, since AI has infinite capacity, basically, seemingly, the 80% is all going to be handled instantly. If somebody calls in with a basic question, instant, their question's answered. Then the other 20%, instead of having to wait on hold for an hour to get a complex question answered, they get instant help because the 100% of humans are now only doing 1/5 of the work 5 times better. And so people with the most complex questions get really, really good support really fast. And people with simple questions get really good support really fast. So everyone's happy. And the AI is not so much of an additional cost. And so it's still worth it, because if the customers are that much happier, they refer that many more people, they stay that much longer, it's a huge net positive for the business. Customer frustration. People hate more than anything staying on hold for an hour and then talking to someone who's pissed off. When I call a bank or something like that and I hear do for an hour, and then somebody picks up the phone and they're in Pakistan. No offense, people from Pakistan, but okay. They're in Pakistan and they go, "Hi, how can I help you?" That pisses me off. I just waited an hour. I should be frustrated, not you. You have a job that you're doing right now. People hate that. People would much prefer to talk to an AI so long as it sounds like a human, because people don't like talking to robots either. And then lack of customization. This is really easy. You can just make it really clear that everything can be customized. Everything can be prompted differently. There's not really a risk of a lack of customization. Okay, so this is the basic stuff. Now, here are the objections you're going to get at closing. So once you've gone over all this, they like the platform, this, that, and the other, they're then possibly going to say, not right now, or maybe later. This is a very common objection. Just kind of like, not right now. So what's really happening? Well, this is a smoke screen. It's something that they're putting up because they don't want to actually tell you the truth. So either they're not convinced of the value yet, they want to avoid confrontation. So instead of saying no, they're just going to be like, maybe later. They have a real concern that they're not voicing, also probably because they're trying to avoid confrontation, or it's genuinely bad timing, which is certainly possible, but rare. So your mission here is to isolate the real objection and create urgency. So here's a 3-step framework that you can use to handle the not right now objection. So first, you want to acknowledge and dig deeper. So don't just be like, all right, yeah, cool, I'll follow up next month, or I'll follow up next year. Don't do that. That's not closing. You're not a closer if you do that. You're just a person on the phone. What you want to say is, okay, totally understand. Timing's important. Can I ask what specifically makes this not the right time? Is it a budget cycle, other priorities, or something about the solution itself? This works because you're forcing them to reveal what their actual objection is. You cannot handle an objection if you don't actually know the root cause of that objection. So now you're understanding what the not right now means. Then once you have isolated the objection, you want to dig even further. So you can say, if I'm hearing you correctly, the only thing standing between us moving forward is whatever they said. Is that right? They'll say, sure. So if we could solve whatever they said, would you be ready to move forward? Those two questions are powerful because they get you to the point where the only barrier between you and money as a closer becomes breaking that one objection. Now you know exactly what it is. So that's really powerful. These two questions are really powerful. So for example, if they say we're too busy right now, you say, I get it, but here's the thing. Being too busy is exactly why you need this. Like, how much time is your team spending on phone calls right now? 5 hours a week? 10? That's time that you're losing right now. And they say, we want to wait till next quarter. I understand budget cycles. Quick question though, how many calls are you missing between now and next quarter? If it's even 10 calls a week, that's 120 plus potential customers going elsewhere. What's the cost of waiting versus starting now? So again, once you have that exact objection, it's really easy to break because it's usually bullshit. Step 3, create urgency. So this is where you flip the script. The real cost isn't your solution. It's doing nothing. This is where you make them see that, just like in this scenario, if they don't do something, they're going to be losing a lot of money, not if they do something. So you can say something like, I respect the timing matters, but let me ask you this. What's happening to your business right now while we wait? How many calls are going to voicemails? How many potential customers are calling your competitors instead? How many hours is your team wasting playing phone tag? Every week you wait costs you X calls times conversion rate times average deal size. Like I said at the beginning, that's real revenue walking out the door. The question isn't whether you can afford to start now, it's whether you can afford not to. Obviously, I don't want to put it exactly like that. It sounds a little bit salesy, but you get the point. And again, this is simple math that you can do with them. That way they know exactly how much they're missing. So one of the best ways to create urgency is, okay, they say that they want to wait till next quarter. Cool. Actually do the math. Pull out a calculator. How many missed calls are you getting? What's your conversion rate? What's your average deal size? Whatever, 8 weeks left of the quarter. Multiply by 8. This is how much money you're going to lose if you don't sign up. Let's say they're going to lose 30K and your service is 5K. Just say to them, do you want to lose $25,000? It's pretty simple. It's simple math, right? Now, the next kind of objection that's really common is the it's too expensive objection. This one's really common. So what's really happening? They don't see the value yet. Your fault. They're comparing it to the wrong thing. Your fault. They legitimately cannot afford it. Again, possible, but rare. Or it's a negotiation tactic. Pretty common, especially in B2B. So never defend your price. Don't say, well, we could lower it, because then you sound like an idiot in a lot of cases. There are definitely times when you can do this, especially if they're trying to negotiate with you. You can play their game a little bit. But as a general rule, you don't want to do it because it does lower your credibility a little bit. And don't say, our competitors charge more, because that's irrelevant. That's completely irrelevant. They want a solution that works. That's the most profitable. It doesn't matter really who charges more. If they don't think that your solution is worth your price, it's completely irrelevant. And it's still your fault. So you can say, I appreciate being upfront about that. Can I ask you, when you say it's too expensive, what are you comparing it to? This works because you're figuring out their frame of reference. Are they comparing it to nothing, to a human receptionist, to a cheaper competitor, to math that they never ever did, or to math that you did? Like, what are they actually comparing this price to? And then once you figure that out, you want to reframe the investments. Never talking about the cost, always the ROI, right? You always want to focus on the positive. So compared to their current solution. Again, let's break this down. Right now, your current solution is costing you X. This is how much you will spend if you don't buy our product. Pull out the calculator, pull out the pad, and do the math. And then you can reframe the cost per call. So if they mention that they're getting 100 calls a week, that's $400 a month. Our solution costs $500 a month, which costs down to $1.25 per call. Would you pay $1.25 to ensure every customer gets answered professionally, instantly, 24/7? Because right now, every call that you miss is costing a lot more than that. Again, if you phrase it like this, it's really obvious. It's like, yeah, of course. Of course I want to spend $1.25 in order to make sure that someone gets their phone picked up. That's worth so much more to me. You just need to keep reframing it with different numbers to find what works for them. Step 3, the divide and conquer technique. So you want to break down the price to make it feel tiny. So you can say, I get that $500 a month. Sounds like a lot at first, but let's break it down. That's $16.67 per day. Okay. That's less than 70 cents per hour for 24/7 coverage. You can't get someone minimum wage for that. And this never sleeps, never calls in sick, and handles unlimited calls simultaneously. When you look at it that way, it actually sounds absurdly cheap, right? And 4, isolate plus trial close. So you can say something like, so if I'm hearing you right, this is the only thing holding you back. So if we can make the numbers work, you'd move forward today, right? Again, you want to make sure that there's only one barrier between you and money. Once you get to that one barrier, you break the barrier and you ask. They will most likely put up another barrier. You make sure there's only one and that it's clear. You then break it and ask. And you repeat and repeat and repeat till they have no more barriers to put up. That's sales. If they say yes, then you've isolated it. So now you can offer payment plans, pilot programs, reduced scope to start, ROI guarantee, all kinds of stuff. If they say no, then there's another objection hiding. So you go all the way back up here and you find the objection. Now, once you've done that, I want to quickly explain the psychology behind these objections. So when someone says not right now, or I'm not convinced yet, the solution is always to build more urgency and show cost of inaction, and never to accept it at face value and just follow up in a few months. Because the psychology here is, I just don't know yet. Not right now. I just don't know yet. They're literally asking you to convince them. they say too expensive, they're just saying, I don't see the value, because no matter what the cost is, there's always a value that can work for it. If you say it's $1 billion, there is something somebody would pay $1 billion for. What you have just isn't it. So the solution to show the ROI, make it really clear why it is worth that amount of money, reframe as an investment versus a cost, and compare it to alternatives. And do not just immediately discount the price for no reason. And the maybe later is just avoiding conflict. Typically, it's just one of these two. Either they don't want it right now because they're not convinced yet, they think it's too expensive because they don't see the value, or you didn't actually answer one of these questions at the very beginning, and so they're a little iffy about the product in general. Now, if you want to use Nova Echo, I've mentioned it multiple times. It's the most advanced conversational voice AI software for agencies and business owners, and it works really, really well when you're first starting out, all the way up until you're doing many tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars a month. You can find that in the description down below. It's novaecho.ai. If you want to know how to start a voice AI agency from the ground up, there's also a free program down below. It's wap.font/Fonty, something like that. It's in the description. You should check it out. There's a few hundred members in there, and I think it'll help you out. So thank you for watching, and please subscribe.